The fire was low tonight, its embers breathing a steady orange glow against the dim wood of the tavern walls. A storm pressed against the shutters, a deep and relentless rumble rolling in from the coast. The kind of weather that turns most folk homeward, except for the ones with heavier burdens than rain can wash away. It was late when the door creaked open, carrying with it the scent of salt and wet rope. A man stood there in the threshold, his shape framed in the watery lamplight from outside. He was tall, though his shoulders stooped with fatigue, and his coat, a navy blue thing once fine enough for an officer, now bore the stains of travel and neglect. The brim of his hat shadowed most of his face, but I could see a rough jawline and eyes that looked at everything without truly seeing. I knew the look. It's the look of someone who's left pieces of himself behind at sea. Without a word, he crossed the room, boots squelching faintly with each step, and lowered himself onto the bench opposite my usual chair. He didn't order drink nor food. Simply sat there, leaning forward, hands clasped together as if to keep them from shaking. "Storm's worse by the docks," he said finally, his voice low and hoarse, as though every word had to fight its way past a throat burned by brine and wind. I poured him a measure of warm brandy and set it before him. "You've seen worse, I take it." He didn't drink right away, just stared at the cup. "I've seen seas that sang back at you, and I've seen what they took in payment." That was enough to still the air between us. I had heard many things in this room, but certain phrases have a weight that makes the listener lean closer without thinking. I said nothing, and in the silence he began his telling. "It began," he said, "on the merchant vessel Gannet, under the flag of the Free Isles. His crew numbered 12 souls, all of them seasoned sailors with skin like tanned leather and hands calloused by a lifetime of rope work. Their captain, a man named Rook, was sharp as a hawk and twice as proud. The Gannet was bound for the market ports of the western continent, carrying spices, dyed silks, and a single passenger who called himself Prince Veyron. The title, he admitted, may have been fanciful, but the man carried himself with the lazy grace of one born into luxury. He had rings of gold and onyx, and a voice that rolled like soft thunder when he spoke. Veyron claimed to be the rightful heir to a throne lost to a cousin's treachery, though he was just as quick to spend coin on dice and drink as he was to speak of honor and destiny. For the first 3 days, the voyage was blessed with fair weather. The sails swelled full and white against the blue, and the sea herself seemed content to cradle the ship along her course. On the 4th night, the singing began. It came faint at first, a thin note like the memory of a song drifting over water. No source could be found, though each man swore it was nearer to him than the next. By morning, the song had faded, but it left a lingering sweetness in the mind, the way certain dreams cling after waking. The 2nd night, the singing returned. Louder this time, harmonics seemed to weave into the sound, each tone folding into another, until it was impossible to tell if one voice or 1,000 carried the melody. The crew grew restless. Rook forbade anyone from leaning over the rails after nightfall. But men are curious creatures, and more than one hand was caught gazing too long into the dark waters. On the 6th day, the storm found them. It rose like a wall from the horizon, swallowing the light until the ship sailed under a ceiling of bruised sky. Rain fell in curtains, and the wind howled with a voice not unlike the song that had haunted them, except now it carried an edge of hunger. The gannet fought her way through the first waves, but by night the deck was a chaos of ropes, snapping wood and shouting men. Varen, strangely calm, stood at the prow as though daring the sea to strike him. And then, through the thunder, the song returned. It was clearer now, words though not in any tongue known to the crew. Sweet, inviting words that spoke directly to whatever part of a man longed for rest, for warmth, for surrender. The first to go was Bosun Harl. He simply let go of the rope he was hauling and stepped over the rail. No cry, no struggle, just gone into the black water. Others followed one by one, their movements slow and dreamlike, as though the sea herself had reached into their minds and drawn them out like a fisherman pulling net. By dawn, only 3 remained. Rook, the man now sitting before me, and the Saltwater Prince himself. The storm had broken, but the ship was not moving. The sails hung limp, and the water around them was unnaturally still. It was then that they saw them. Dozens, perhaps hundreds, of figures floating just beneath the surface. Pale faces turned upward. Their hair drifted in the water like seaweed, and their lips moved in unison, forming the words of that same terrible song. Their eyes. He paused here, staring into the fire as though its warmth might erase the memory. Their eyes were not eyes at all, but polished stones, smooth and deep as tide pools. Varen did not flinch. He stepped to the rail, spoke a few low words in the same strange tongue, and the singing stopped. The figures sank out of sight. The air smelled suddenly of copper. "What did you say to them?" Rook demanded. The prince only smiled. "I told them they've had their fill." When the crewman, the one telling me this now, next woke, the gannet was in harbor. Rook was gone, the prince was gone, and the only thing in the cabin where Varen had slept was a single onyx ring, warm to the touch. The man's voice trailed off, and the storm outside had quieted to a steady rain. He drained his brandy in a single swallow, rose without a word, and left as silently as he'd come. When I cleared his cup from the table, I found a coin beneath it. Silver with a crest I did not know. It was warm,